The Chapel of Calvary is the 12th station of the cross. Calvary is the Latin equivalent of the word Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. It is difficult to imagine that in a room this ornate, the most heinous crime in history occurred, the murder of the Son of God. In 135 AD, the Roman Emperor Hadrian built a pagan temple to the goddess Venus right on this spot, with a statue of Venus over what is now the altar of Calvary. In 326 AD, the Empress Helena, who built the first church here, was able to locate the place of the cross in part because of this statue. Now, in around the year 393 AD, Saint Jerome, who lived here, said that the cross stood not just near this hill, but literally on the hill, where the altar of Calvary is now. Here you can see the life-size images of Jesus, Mary, and the Apostle John. In their places of worship, the Orthodox churches use two-dimensional images and not three-dimensional statues. This is to resist the temptation to make an idol out of a statue, like the Greeks and Romans did. While hanging on the cross, prisoners probably had a footrest where they could prop themselves up and prolong their life, which is something that Jesus did not do. He gave up his life after 6 hours. As you can see here, Pontius Pilate put a sign above Jesus' head which read, "Jesus the Nazarene, the King of the Jews." This was to insult the Jews, saying, in essence, "What a pitiful king you Jews have." Now take a look over here in this glass case, and you can see the actual rocks of the summit of Mount Golgotha. Here you can see a crack in the rock. You can also see this crack directly below this altar in the Chapel of Adam, through a window behind the altar of this chapel. When Jesus died, Matthew 27:51 says, "And the earth shook, and the rocks were split." There are many who believe that this crack was created at the moment that Jesus died, and scientists have determined that there was an earthquake here sometime between 25 and 35 AD. In the Old Testament, an altar was where sacrifices were made. It is where something that was living died, and this altar is no exception. There is a hole in its base where you can reach down and feel the actual stones of the hill of Calvary. But to touch these stones, every knee must bow before the cross of Jesus. And when you reach into this hole to touch something that you cannot see, you're not just touching the rocks of Calvary, you're touching the place that received the blood of Jesus. The blood that was spilled under this altar is now calling out to us. The penalty for the sins of every person who has ever lived was fully paid in this room. Nowhere in the world should our gratitude to God be more earnest than where we are standing. What will our response be to the price that Jesus paid for us on this hill?